It was a quiet evening, the kind where the world outside seemed to pause, and the only sound in the room was the ticking of the clock. Sarah and Michael had just finished dinner, but the air between them felt heavy, thick with the weight of unresolved words. They had argued earlier, and now, neither of them seemed willing to break the silence. Sarah sat on the couch, her arms crossed, staring at the wall. Michael, across from her, glanced at her occasionally but didn't say anything. His jaw clenched, and he seemed lost in his thoughts. The tension was palpable, but neither wanted to be the first to give in. As the minutes ticked by, Sarah's mind wandered. She thought about the argument, about the things she had said in anger, and the hurt that had built up between them. Was it worth it? The pride, the stubbornness? But she refused to apologize first. Outside, the sun had long set, and darkness crept into their home, wrapping everything in quiet. Michael stood up to walk to the window. "It's getting late," he muttered, though his voice sounded distant. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. A call came in. Michael's face went pale as he answered. It was the hospital. His best friend, Ben, had been in an accident, and they needed to speak to a family member. Without a second thought, Michael grabbed his keys, his face filled with panic, and rushed out of the door. As he opened it, Sarah stood up, her heart racing. But it was too late. The door slammed shut behind him. In the car, as Michael sped through the streets, his thoughts raced with fear, regret, and sorrow. What if something happened to Ben? What if he never got the chance to apologize to Sarah? What if this was the last night they would ever share together, and this silence was the final memory they'd leave each other with? He arrived at the hospital and rushed to the emergency room, but there was no time to think. It wasn't until hours later, when the doctor told him that Ben was stable, that Michael could finally breathe. But in that brief moment of panic, everything he had taken for granted, including Sarah, felt fragile, as if life could slip away without warning. The next morning, Michael came home, exhausted and shaken, only to find Sarah sitting at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee in hand. She looked at him, her eyes soft but weary, as if she had been waiting all night for him to come back, just as he had waited for her to speak first. He walked toward her, guilt weighing heavy on his chest. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "for everything. For not saying it last night, for holding on to pride. I didn't realize how much I could lose until last night." Sarah reached out, taking his hand. "We never know what tomorrow will bring. We can't let anger cloud what we have today," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. And in that moment, as they sat together, both feeling the weight of the night, they understood: never go to bed angry at someone you love. Because you never know when it might be the last time you speak to them.